God, I'm telling you, my dogs are barking today.
But man, my dogs are barking.
Welcome in to the My Dogs Are Barking podcast. For this very special episode, Austin, my main man, my co-host, is along with me here, and a very special guest, Tyler Siskey, is joining the show. Tyler, how are you doing, man? You're in the full swing of college football. You've been real busy, huh?
We've been a little busy, brother. It's been it's fun. It's that time of the year, so we're enjoying it, having a good time.
You know, Tyler, for those who do not know, Tyler spent a lot of time coaching all over the place. He played wide receiver at Auburn and then Troy. Am I correct on that?
That's it, man. Look at you. You're digging deep, man. Digging deep. I like it.
That's right. That's right. And Tyler is notorious for really good stories. So if you have kind of do some research on Tyler and his story about leaving Auburn and going to Troy, it's remarkably interesting and talks about a certain political figure here in the state of Alabama. But we want to welcome Tyler because he has a lot of not only like playing experience, but coaching experience and coaching with the best along the staff there in Tuscaloosa with Nick Saban. But that's not it. Tyler's got a lot of other experience as well, and I thoroughly enjoy his stories, and so I know you will as well if you guys have not heard him before. But first, Tyler, I'd love to get into this. Obviously, we're a Mississippi State podcast, but we talk about the rest of the SEC. So let's take a moment and unfortunately talk about Mississippi State. I know you're a fan of Jeff Lebby, but obviously thus far into his tenure, fans are disappointed. They're not getting the offense. It appears as if the personnel is just not necessarily matching up with this kind of veer and shoot offense that he has. What is it about this team, like for his offense to work, what type of personnel does he need on the field?
Yeah, man. He's got to get some speed on the outside, and you know, I say this. I get asked about Mississippi State a lot, and look, I think Jeff Lebby's the right guy. I have to admit, I'm biased. I really like Jeff Lebby as a person. I like him as a coach. You know, I think look. I think we're in a new age of college football. I think fans are having a very, very difficult time transitioning to this new age of college football. If your team is not one that's having success, those fans are having a very difficult time transitioning to this. And look, we can call it what we want to call it. You know, it's come down to resources, right? We are in a system that has unlimited free agency with no salary cap. Okay, so we've made it a fundraising contest. That's what we have done. We've made it a fundraising contest. So if the longer this thing goes, the people who are, I mean, if you want to win, it's very simple. If you want to win, go buy players. And it's going to take about, if you want to compete with the big boys, it's going to take about right as of today now. But let me explain something to you. I know y'all realize we have an inflation problem in America, right? Well, we have inflation in college football too. This year, 20 million will get you to compete for a title. Okay. Next year, hell, it may be 25 million. I don't know, because it's gone up every year. It continues to go up. And the people who are winning, every single team that is winning is spending. I mean, it's not rocket science. So I do think Lebby is the right guy for the job. I think I understand fans get frustrated. I get that. I mean, that's kind of, we know what we signed up for when you do this, right? But look, and you know, one was obviously a very tragic deal with Coach Leach leaving. But then you know, they hire a coach and they fire him before he even finishes his first season. And when you do that, you already have unlimited free agency. You're going to create a turnstile of a roster. And but I know personally, I've worked with a lot of people that are coaching at Mississippi State. They got the right people there. So this is not a people problem. Give them time, be patient, let them do what they do. Jeff Lebby's the right guy for Mississippi State. I honestly believe that.
Wow. Well, that makes me feel better for sure about that, you know, after Saturday's game. So, Coach, when you were coaching, obviously the transfer portal was not, you know, as big as it is. It's not what it was today. Like what would you say the biggest difference is in how you'd coach today and how you coached when you were coaching? Like what's a way that you would, you know, could get players to stay nowadays, or what's like, you know, what's that likely, you know, with the NIL is like as well with with money being involved more heavily than it was obviously back then. What's some differences that you would make?
Well, first of all, money was never involved before NIL started, right? So that is just a big myth. I don't know where people come up with that. I have never heard that before. No, look, it's changed a ton. When a lot of people don't realize this, the transfer portal is not the problem. Okay, because when the transfer portal, the reason when it started in October of 2018, the word transfer portal was put in so players wouldn't have to. So, like example, prior to October of 2018, if a player wanted to transfer, a school or a coach could say, "Hey, yeah, you can transfer, but you have to sit out a year. But I'm not going to allow you to go to these 5 schools, okay, whatever it is." And usually they would block you from going to any school in their conference or anybody on the schedule for the next few years, right? So, example, like Mississippi State just played Arizona State, right? So, like, if in the old days, you would have prevented them from going to an SEC school or Toledo or Arizona State or, out of conference games on the schedule. So that's kind of how it was, right? But so they put the portal in so the players could go transfer and they didn't have to get talked out of doing it, or you were not going to be able to hold those 2-year sit out, cases where you wouldn't allow them to transfer. This immediate eligibility deal, that was never part of the process. I met with the NCAA when they were putting this in, and I vividly remember telling them, "Hey, look, it's fine as long as you never allow somebody to be immediately eligible." And, "Oh, coach, we'll never do that." Yeah, because we can't do that. Well, they said, "Hold my beer and watch this," right? And as soon as they did that, the floodgates were open, and now you have precedent, and here we go. We're off to the races. The problem is not the money either. I'm all for players getting paid. The problem is 100% immediate eligibility. People call that the portal, but it's not the portal. The portal is not the problem. It's the immediate eligibility part of it, right? So back when we were, I say in the old days, like it was 900 years ago, it wasn't that long ago. When you built rosters, you only had 25 initials. You had 25 chances to fix a roster every single year. So you had to build, right? You had to go. Well, the NCAA is like, "Oh, we're going to do away with the 25." Well, it was the reason they were doing that was because they were killing themselves on the back end. So they had to do it because people were having so few players on scholarship. So it's actually a little bit easier to actually build a roster from what you're trying to get. If I were to answer your question, if I was doing it today, I would be a little bit different. I'd probably like a hybrid way. I think it's the best way, in my opinion, which will buy you a cup of coffee the next time you drive through, is it's extremely heavy high school based recruiting, and then fill in the gaps with portal players. With that being said, we're going, one position that we're always going to have is a quarterback. I'm a big believer in this. I don't know why this is another one of those things that fans seem to not follow. You can have 21 you can have 21 great players. And if your quarterback is average to below average, your team's going to stink. And you can have 21 averages grits players, but if you got a damn good quarterback, you're going to be competitive and have a chance. And look, Cam Newton won a national championship basically by himself at Auburn. He was the quarterback, and they were average as grits everywhere else. And so, it happens every year. All right. You guys do a podcast. Every single team we're talking about being a playoff contender. They're this. Guess what they got? They got a quarterback. That's why everybody picks on, Clemson. Oh, Clemson this, Clemson that. It's Dabo's fault. It's always the coach's fault. It's Dabo's fault. He doesn't want to adjust. He doesn't want to do this. No, Dabo's got an average as grits quarterback. He's got 21 damn good players and an average as grits quarterback. He won national championships with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. This isn't hard. You know what I mean? LSU wins the national championship. This guy named Joe Burrow. Not hard, guy. You know what I mean? Not hard. So that's just kind of how, JJ McCarthy, he stinks. His first round pick. This is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of the reasons why Miami had such a quick turnaround. They've been inept for the past 20 years. All of a sudden, they have enough money to get that and get a quarterback that is far above average. And now, man, they're looking like a playoff team, in some
Imagine
respects.
that.
Yeah.
Spend $20 million and get a great quarterback. Wonder what happens with that.
Something I'm curious about, you talk about being a coach, and obviously, like, fans are so far on the outside, and you got all the random people with their opinions while they're in mom's basement, kind of thing. When you take us to the house of a coach, like, obviously your family knows, like, this is what you signed up for, but man, is there ever any sort of normalcy, like, or is it really year to year?
No, it's kind of, now that I've had my own business and all that, it's gotten really, I think real life is weird. All right. You know what I mean? Like I got used to, you get used to the craziness, the abnormal becomes normal. Um, no, it's year to year, man, and it's really profession, especially when you're at the group of five level or below, because when you're, even to the aspect, even to the extent, even when I was at Ole Miss, the first time, I think when we first got there, I don't think they had won a game in like an SEC game in like 3 years, or whatever it was. It'd been a while. It'd been a minute. And you are literally, you live this world to where, okay, if we win it, we don't win, we're gonna get fired. Okay, so we're gonna have to move. If we win too much, we're gonna get another job and we're gonna move. And the only way to really plant roots is to go 6-6, 7-5. And if you do that shit long enough, then they're gonna fire your ass too, right? So they'll get tired of that, right? So there's not really any sense of normalcy when it comes to the coaching world. My wife's great, she's been with me since I was a player. And so she'd been through the GA years and all that stuff. And I always say, if she can stick around through after being a GA, she's a keeper, right? But look, I mean, my wife basically raised our kids. I'm paying the price for it now. Um, as my kids are getting older, I didn't raise my own kids. I spent the better part of 20 years raising somebody else's kids. I spent more time with other people's children than I did my own children. And that's something that eats me alive every day. It really, it haunts me every day. And now I have an 8-year-old now. I have a younger child. He doesn't know me, as a coach, right? So as he's grown up, he didn't grow up in that world. So I'm getting a kind of another chance at it, right? And but my two older ones, they're fixing to leave and go to college, and that haunts me every day of my life.
Yeah,
More
sure.
than any loss, more than anything. I mean, that stuff's it's a game. It's a job and it's a game. That's real life. It haunts me worse than anything I've ever done in my life.
That's interesting you say that, because most folks, most coaches, I'm sure that probably that they've say things similar, but you never really hear a coach, talk about those things, talk about time, that kind of thing. But also, I think it's wonderful that you have the self awareness to go, like, hey, but you know what? Like, now this new part of my new part of life, now I have this time, along with them. We live in Tuscaloosa. I've been here for 12 years or so. Derrick Henry and I came here at the same time. Obviously, very similar physical specimens. Very me and Derrick go way back. Um,
Same year I came.
oh, no kidding. Okay, yeah, and something that's been interesting is just kind of this aura of Nick Saban. I mean, he's the greatest of all time. We see all those things, but something I've always wondered. I mean, you think about it, on a national basis, people are talking about Nick Saban, and forever they talked about him and the narratives and his process and who he is. I've always wondered what is his take on that. Like, I mean, he's got to be aware of it, right? Does he ever, like, does he genuinely just not care about those things at all, or do you think he knows?
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, he's got to know, but yeah, he doesn't care. I mean, he is very consistent. That's what you see is what you get, right? He's extremely consistent. The only thing that I'm glad now that he's on game day, the only thing that the public didn't see, back then was he's a funny dude, and so you're getting to see his personality some on game day. But he lives it, he preaches it, and I'm overly grateful for what he taught me. I could never repay him. I mean, you can't put a dollar figure on it. I learned more my time with him than I did probably my entire career put together. And I'm extremely grateful. But yeah, I'm sure he's aware of some of it, but you wouldn't know it.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, like watching him in College Game Day has been, I mean, eye-opening, I think, for the public. It's been so cool to see him and the duo of him and Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee obviously such an outgoing guy. That's been must-see TV every single Saturday. So that's been so fun to watch. Take us into recruiting a little bit. Obviously, we're massive Mississippi State fans. They recruit heavy in Mississippi. We live in Tuscaloosa, so we hear all the noise in Tuscaloosa. So what's kind of like the recruiting in Bama with, Mississippi mainly getting Mississippi guys. Y'all are getting Alabama, but y'all are mainly like also going, across the country to get big name guys. Take me into like when did y'all have the go ahead to really go and go after a player, if you know what I mean?
Well, you didn't do anything there until Coach Saban signed off on it at Alabama, right? So, I mean, there's a whole process of a evaluation process. And then, when you watch the film, you're basically saying, are they good enough? And so you'll make the offer based on off the film, and that comes from the boss man. Nobody got offered without him knowing about it or whatever, right? And so, but that's just when it starts. Offering a kid's where the recruiting process starts, and I'm a big, and it was not, this is not just Alabama, it's anywhere, right? When I was at Ole Miss, South Alabama, Arkansas State, it doesn't matter. Every place is different, okay? And it's about fit, all right? And so, I always would say this about Alabama is like, look, this place isn't for everybody. And so just because you were Johnny Five Star, and this guy was recruiting you, may not have been a good fit at Alabama, right? And because one of the things I think the secret sauce of what Coach Saban could do better than any other coach I've ever been around is he could take 85 five-star selfish assholes, okay, that all they wanted to do was things for themselves. And he was able to get 85 selfish people to play a team game and make them understand. And one way he did that is like by getting them to believe and understand that winning, we all ate if we all came together and did instead of individuals. And so, and I think he was the best at that. But yeah, but what you're saying is from a recruiting standpoint, recruiting has changed. And again, it's another one of those things that I think it's, and I don't think I even finished answering your other question. I apologize when you're asking about how to build it. But, I think you got to have a mixture, okay, of high school kids and portal kids, right? But here's where it's changed is this isn't 2019. Hell, it's not 2021. Like, because when NIL started, this thing didn't really get humming until about that second and third year. So we've only been about 2 years into this pay for play, like you got to have money to get it right. And so this is not, so there's no borders anymore, right? I don't think I said on our podcast, but I was talking about the other day, like the entire game has changed. And so the thought process of, oh, our coach needs to be on a 6-year deal because that little Johnny is afraid that he's not going to be there, that's gone. Okay. They want to know, like, literally, people are coming on visits and they want to meet with the head coach and they want to meet with your NIL guy, know how much they're getting paid. They don't care about your photo shoots. They don't care about your locker room. They don't care about all this stuff that has been important, and fans are not processing that. They think it's the way it was. No, sir. No, sir. And I say this, half jokingly, but I'm really not. You can pick the team. It doesn't matter. It can be Monroe. It can be New Mexico State. It does not matter. If the Saudi PIF fund gave one school the same amount of money that they gave John Rahm to play golf for Live, you wouldn't just win a national championship year one in football. You would win it in every single sport offered by the NCAA. Like, it's literally a fundraising contest at this point. And I know Mississippi State fans are upset. I get it. I do. Okay. I honestly, I get it. All right. But there's only 133 of these jobs, right? Okay. You don't get to be a head football coach because you don't know what the hell you're doing. All right. Imagine being one of the 130, we'll count the NFL too, okay? Imagine being one of the top 164 people on the planet at something, and somebody saying, this guy sucks. I mean, like, how asinine is that? You know what I mean? That's asinine. And so, again, it's a fundraising contest. All right. If Saudi PIF drops $600 million off at Mississippi State and Starkville within 6 months, starting next is the first window was open, you'd win the national championship and everything, literally everything, because there's nothing stopping kids from leaving. Who's
When
like Travis Hunter? All right, Travis Hunter's at Colorado, right? 3-year guy. We all know he's going pro, right? Let's say, man, Panthers get first pick, and they say they're going to pick. Hey, look, Panthers can get first pick. Hey, look, I know you're getting $20 million. How about this? Come play here 1 year. I'll give you 30 to come play here 1 year. There's nothing stopping you from doing that if you got enough money, and you could literally keep people from going to the NFL and just take them, cherry pick them, and you call Nico. You can call Nico up at Tennessee. Nico, look, man, listen. I know you bleed. I know you bleed orange, man. I get it. I know you're getting about 1.2 a year. How about this? I'll give you 50 a year. Come on. What do you think he's gonna do? He'll be. Where's my cowbell, coach? Where's my cowbell? Like, if you got enough money, you can go buy the team you want. And so, in my opinion, I said all that to say this. In my opinion, I honestly feel that we should start, as fans, need to start judging coach performance based on the resources they have to go get players.
Yeah. Can you raise funds, and can you politic a little bit to see how much you can get? That's so crazy how fast, like how quick things have changed. When I was thinking about, so for those who don't know, I've written for the paper here in town for a while, for about seven or 8 years. And there's some stories that come out about players, and there's some stories that don't. And I was thinking about this Georgia situation with all the things going on, and we're hearing a lot of things. And I go back to wondering, man, how many things are happening, that we do not hear about? I'd love to get that from you. You don't have to say, well, here, this is what, but in your experience, man, how many things happen that never get reported?
About 99%.
Wow.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I mean, very, very few things get reported. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Very, very few things see the light of day.
That's what I figured.
It's everywhere. It's not, it's everywhere. And what happens is, for whatever reason, some place gets, you start looking for, like Georgia's in a situation now to, like, literally, I make the joke, right? I say the joke on the podcast and on lives and stuff. And I say, look, the only team that's going to beat Georgia is the Clark County Sheriff's Department, right? But, like, once you start, I mean, how many, like, literally, I guarantee, you work at a newspaper, all right? Guaranteed, people are waking up in the morning, they're getting their cup of coffee, they're hitting Twitter, like, oh, wait a minute, I need to go check the Clark County arrest records, see what happened. And then, what I mean? Like, they're looking for things now, right? And so, you got to be, that's kind of the scary part, is you don't want to give anybody a reason to start looking, because those in glass house, and I always say this to all fan bases out there, those in glass houses shall not throw stones, because it's just a matter of time till one of yours gets wrapped up in something.
So it's almost biblical, man. I'll tell you what. Lastly, well, just one more question, Coach, and we'll get you out of here. And just real quick, you mentioned the show. McCready and Siskey is the show. For those who have not checked it out already, I would consider it to be a must watch if you're a sports media person, someone who enjoys that kind of thing. There is no shortage of shows to watch. I understand that on the big networks, some random guy's podcast such as ours. But to have somebody's perspective, who has been on a huge platform, been on coaching staffs, has seen a lot of things. It's incredibly informative, and it's entertaining. So please check that out. Lastly, Coach, man, right now at where we are at this moment here at the middle half of September, betting man, who are the best two overall teams? Just putting everything out there, and maybe they won't end up together. Who is it?
In the league or in the country?
In the country, who's standing at the end?
Texas. I had them 2 in the SEC. To start the year, I had them in Georgia. I'm not like, here's my deal with Georgia. I don't overreact on one games like everybody else does, right? I mean, I'm talking about it's gotten so bad now the computers are overreacting over one game, right? But I mean, why would I don't understand like they haven't they haven't lost a regular season game since like the Wuhan flu was here. I mean, it's been a minute. Okay, it's been a minute since they've lost a regular season game. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, I'm just gonna like what you said. If I was a betting man, I'm just gonna bet with a house. I'm betting with a casino. Okay, I'm gonna win more than you are. I'm gonna bet. I'm gonna stay with Georgia. No, but Texas, I think, is the real deal. Why are they the real deal? Then only they have one quarterback. They have how many? They have 2 of them. So, but Texas is there. I want to see Ohio State play somebody roster wise. Ohio State can be that number 2 team. I don't know what's going on in Oregon. Their roster is too good to be playing like that.
Yeah.
They did look a little better. I look more what we were looking this past week, but defensively something's just not clicking, and I don't understand that. I would definitely Texas. I'm probably going to say Ohio State just to get it out of the SEC. Miami's got a chance to be one of those teams at the end. And then look, the SEC, man, we're fixing to run this gauntlet, right? And it's going to be who's going to be the last man standing. I don't think a lot of fans understand that we're not playing. I mean, if you're going to make a run, you're going to be playing, everybody's going to be playing, 15, 16 games, and depth is going to be a big issue. The only problem with that, and that's what got the SEC last year, is the portal has killed the depth in the SEC. So the depth is starting to, because all the depth pieces are leaving and going other places. So, the longer this thing goes, USC's got a chance to be good. I think they're going to put on some displays here on Saturday and have their welcome to the Big Ten moment Saturday.
Can I ask you real quick about Ole Miss? Ole Miss seems to be, it's kind of like this analogy. Remember back in school, there was the person that, maybe just they're average looking, whatever. Summertime happens, they come back and they've hit a growth spurt. Like all of a sudden, over the summer, they're looking good. But the inside, they might still be kind of like, nervous, not really sure if they can ask out the pretty girl. Well, Ole Miss all of a sudden has looked really good now over the summer. Like they have upgraded all these positions. The question is, can they ask out the pretty girl? Can they win the most important games? Do you see some of that with Ole Miss, or man, does it just look like they're? I mean, I guess they hadn't necessarily been challenged, by great teams just yet.
They haven't played anybody yet, right? But look, I mean, I know what I see. You know what I mean? They have done a really good job on both sides of the line of scrimmage, getting bigger and getting length. They've done a great job in the back end getting length. Length is the way the game is played, and anybody that does personnel understands that the game is played by arm length, right? And they've done a good job with that. Jackson Dart's in his 3rd year. He'll be, he's doing well. They've added, Juice Wells to the receiving core that was already strong with Trey Harris. They have, and they've actually started like the last 2 years. They didn't do well at the beginning of his tenure, but the last 2 years have started recruiting high school players, and those kids are going to start, trying to feed the system. And look, they're spending money, okay, and they've invested in the program, and we can call it, like I said at the beginning, that's part of today's, that's what it takes, right? And so they've invested. From an actual game standpoint, the one thing I want to see is the running game develop a little bit. I think if you look where their weakness is on the offense, it would be in the personnel in the backfield. I think Henry Parrish is a guy, but they just don't have a lot of depth behind him of guys that I would say are like, SEC, high quality SEC players like they do at other positions when they're 2 and 3 deep at places, right? And then on the defensive side, defensive up front, they can get after you. They're going to be good. Walter Nolan is a real deal. He's a transfer from Texas A&M. They got some guys that can get after you. And this is like the trick. I don't know about their secondary. They look good. They have a good length, but nobody has tested them yet because the quarterback's breathing out of his ear hole before he can get rid of it. So eventually somebody will protect a little bit better and they will be able to get some passes off and you can kind of see where they're at on the back end. But running, like my big thing with them is, and I've always said this, if I said that this week on Neil's deal is if the goal is the 10-2 and get to the playoffs, they're fine. I think they already have that team. If the goal is to win the damn thing, they have to find an identity in the running game. At some point in time in this season, this is going to be a long year. There is going to be a time during this season where they have to line up with it. And my reference is more like 4-minute drill. We got to get 2 first downs to ice this game away or whatever it is, that you got to line up and say, hey, we're running the football. You know I'm running it. I know I'm running it. And I still have to be successful. And if you want to win championships, you got to find a way to run the football in big games. There's going to be a moment where you have to do that. And that's one thing I think they need to find sometime in the next few weeks.